Hey guys, Ted Groveland with the Tedcast for today. I am still wearing my flight suit because we're still talking about checklist and I'm still in pilot brain. I'm kind of thinking of a business the way I would think about a plane when I used to fly search and rescue. Actually, fairly dangerous actually. We're flying around the mountains. You got to make sure everything's going to go well so you don't do any damage to yourself. Let's not do any damage to your business. Let's figure out how to make sure that everything's squared away before we start going off to do something that's important, like service all these customers in the middle of a heat wave in July. Make sure we have all the things in place that we might need. So today we're going to talk about the follow-up because it's next on our list. I'm releasing these one per day. If you missed the first few, you can go back and find them or go subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I just put them all out at one time there, so you can just go in there and watch them one after the other on my YouTube channel. Go ahead, find me, subscribe, etc. So enough of that. We're going to talk about follow-up. Follow-up is really what has to happen in your company for the whole process to work. It's just a double check, a checklist, if you will, to make sure that all the things that we think are happening in the company are actually happening. We want to make sure that you've got a process in place that you can formalize to say, this happens, this happens, this happens. So the most common, normal, obvious one is, happy calls. Kind of called that all over the industry. Are you calling customers back consistently? Like, are you just spot checking, or are you doing every single customer? Are you calling them back and saying, hey, we were there a little bit ago, this afternoon, this morning, yesterday, whatever your process is, and are you happy with what happened? Is there anything else we need to do for you? Was there something that, that our technician promised or our salesperson promised or whatever? Any more questions you have? Are we doing happy calls for every customer touch point? You should be doing that to follow up because you start to find things out that can make your company much better and improvement. Now, it's also an important thing that's kind of obvious, but maybe not. The person who ran the call, it's very helpful to have somebody else do the happy call, because sometimes if a customer had a problem with a certain service tech, or even with the owner, if you're the service tech, hey, I really like the way they talked to me. I didn't really like the way this happened. They may not tell you that, but they might tell somebody else. So before they start telling their neighbors they're not happy, have them tell someone in your company and then get right back and make it right. Okay, so have a process for follow-up with that stuff. You got to have a way to do rescheduling. I know that happens when you're saying things like, hey, we needed to get such and such a part or whatever. We need to come back for whatever reason. I don't know why I see this, but if someone says to a customer, yeah, well, we need to come back, so why don't you get back on call the office and see when you can be available. It's like, and then they leave, and you're like, well, that was stupid. What we need to do is have someone from the office contact them and say, hey, our service technician says we need to come back there. What time is good for you? And then get it right back on the schedule, because we need to complete the calls, follow up, make sure things aren't dropping through the cracks. And then, of course, parts ordering. Who's doing it? Is the technician doing that? Or is he handing it to the office? Do you have a warehouse person that does that? Who takes care of making sure that if there's a part missing, that we can follow up, finish it, and complete the call and collect revenue for that call? We don't want to end up with like, oh yeah, I charged my trip charge, diagnostic fee, whatever the heck you call it, and yeah, we're looking for a part, we didn't get back to them. Well, the part's been sitting on so-and-so's desk waiting to go into this other guy's truck to go back to the customer and never got rescheduled. What the heck is the follow-up here to make sure this doesn't happen, right? Common one we would see is something, especially in summer, you're looking at the air conditioner and someone asks a question about like the humidifier, and you say, well, we don't really need to worry about that right now, but we'll get to it before the fall. And then, of course, no one follows up, and here's the customer in the fall with air humidifier that's maybe non-functional or something. So again, follow up, make a process, make it formal, and that kind of thing. And then the last one is like paperwork and software. Do you have a process that you follow every single time with a checklist to say, we closed out the paperwork or the software, closed out the call in House Call Pro or whatever, Field Edge or Service Titan or whatever the heck you're using. There's almost always a process to go in and say, this call is complete. If you're not doing that, you end up with 1,500 calls that are marked incomplete in your system, and your reporting for your software freaking sucks. At which point, there's not much point in having software if you can't run good reports from it. Then it's just a mess anyway. So at that point, all you're doing is using it as a really fancy Google Calendar. Learn how to close out all your calls properly. Make sure that the call got paid. Yes, collect credit cards on site. You're swiping them. Whatever you're doing, make sure that it's complete and it's finished and the call has been followed up from someone probably in the office, going through the process, making sure it's all set. By the way, it's a really good time, even if you're a small company, to be thinking about hiring someone in your office to take care of all this minutia for you. I always said my first hire, my very, very first hire, assuming you're a service technician that is starting a business and knows how to fix the air conditioners and stuff, the very first person I hire is an office person, because it takes all that off your plate. All the stuff we're talking about, follow up and all that kind of junk, you can put onto somebody else's plate for a pretty minimal cost, and it is incredible how much impact that makes on a business. So if you need some help with that, let me know, and we'll talk soon.